Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studios. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. My name is Dave Quadrelli. I am joined by Harmon Dial. Buckle up, folks. It's going to be a long episode of Canucks Conversation. Get your beverage of choice, snuggle up in a blanket. If you're on the road, don't do either of those things. But we are going to be joined, rare two guest episodes. We're joined by Dan Riccio today and Dave Hall as well. We've also got a Canucks game to talk about. And also, because there's no show tomorrow with the 1 p.m. Canucks start, we're going to also preview the weekend slate of games. It's going to be a busy show. But I did want to start just with Riccio. I want to get Dan in here as soon as possible. We're very excited to have him as part of the Nation Network, and I wanted to make sure we had that conversation with him right off the top. Dan's obviously been in the market here with us for 8 years, heading back to Toronto if you missed the news yesterday, for a new show, part of the Nation Network, doing with Cavi Richards and Lindsay Dunn as well. Off the Roster. Oh, that's a good name. You know what? Dan's going to join us in a second. I want to see how they got that name. I like that name. All right. Dan is a presentation of Movember, the leading charity dedicated to changing the face of men's health, because healthier men mean a healthier world. This is the 19th annual campaign for Movember in Canada, raising funds and awareness for men's health across the country. Since 2003, over 6 million people have raised funds for Movember. In 2024, over 47,000 Canadians participated, and the movement continues to grow. Donate at Movember.com today and be part of changing the face of men's health in Canada. Let's bring him in. Dan Riccio joins the program now, the newest member of the Nation Network. Reach, thanks for doing this. How you doing today?
What's up, fellas? Doing pretty well. Still getting used to this whole getting traded feel. It's now I know how players feel when they get traded. It's kind of it's a lot, but it's good things. Good things.
Okay, aside from the opportunity to call yourself an official coworker of both Harmon and I, what made now the right time for you?
Yeah, it's been a lot. It was a really tough decision to make. Obviously, I was here for the start of the launch of Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver, and we built a pretty strong product over there over the last 8 years. And so it was really tough to leave the team there, and obviously the community base that cross over quite a bit between this show and what Canucks Conversation does and what I was doing with Canucks Central. But the biggest thing really is I felt it was time to take a next step in my career, challenge myself to try something a little bit different than what I had been doing, and wanting to see another path towards career growth, and also getting back home closer to family and closer to the teams that I grew up watching as well. But the chance to do all that and bring it all together at once with Off the Roster is probably the biggest reason that now was the right time.
When you look back on your time in Vancouver, what stands out to you most about it?
Just the way people kind of embrace me, guys. Like, it was weird. Like, I remember when I first talked with Craig McEwen about making the move when they were launching the station. He was like, "Are you gonna be okay?" Talking about the Canucks fourth line, like in the middle of August. And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, it sounds fine." Not anything I hadn't done before, but when I got here, the difference was like, you don't really move off to talk about the Blue Jays or something else that might be going on in the summer. It's just, it can be Canucks all the time, a little bit of Lines, a little bit of Whitecaps, but people wanted their Canucks content. And I got used to that pretty quickly. But the way people embraced myself as a broadcaster, I did get a lot of people saying to me, like, they don't really take well to Toronto folk out there in Vancouver. And honestly, from a work perspective, I never really felt that. So, and I tried to not make Toronto much of my identity. I just wanted it to be about the team and the sports that we covered, the sports that we love, knowing that you can connect to a sports fan, because that's what we all are at our core. Like, you don't get into sports media by not being a sports fan generally. So that's what we all are at our core. And I really appreciate for the Vancouver Canucks sports community for embracing me that way.
Okay, aside from any moment associated with 23-24 season, the playoff run that ensued, is there anything that stands out to you from your time covering the Canucks? Like a day where you were just like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened." We've had a few, like one that stands out to me at least is we went off the air, and then as soon as we went off the air, they traded for Nikita Zadorov. So we ran back from the parking lot at the Wall Center to get back on the air. That's one that stands out for me. Is there anything that stands out for you over your years covering the team?
Yeah, there's a number that happened. Actually, like a similar story to that one that just popped in my head as you mentioned that. I was doing a show, Reach Deep. We were on location in Abbotsford. I guess it would have been early 2020. And I'm heading back on the train ride back up to the city. And it's at that time that Jim Benning pulls the trigger on a Tyler Toffoli trade. And C-Mac calls me and he's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm still on the train. He's like, well, just go straight to the studio and continue doing a show. I was like, all right. Canucks traded for Tyler Toffoli. We're going to make a breaking news show out of that. And we did. And it was great. But like that kind of stuff definitely sticks out. I think more recently, probably a couple of years ago when the infamous Jim Rutherford interview, we bring him on the early stages of that Bruce Boudreau season. And he just, sat and like we had an agenda, like, here's what we're going to kind of talk about. Here's what we want to try and hit on with Rutherford. And then, he just comes out guns a-blazing and is tearing Boudreau apart. And I'm just like,
that was
okay.
The no structure. That was where he first said no structure, right?
That was the no structure interview. So some of those battles we had with Jim, it's like Jim's going to tell you what he wants to tell you. I kind of figured that out pretty quickly with GM JR and appreciated that about him. But we had some battles with Jim Benning as well in the earlier years. He just trying to get information out of him, and sometimes you'd get him to slip up and those kinds of things. And there are certainly some times when we would ask him the tough questions and he didn't like it too much, but I mean, that's kind of the business. And that's also part and parcel with covering the Canucks, because the good years have been few and far between.
Okay, Rich, I had to ask you, I hopped back on the Blue Jays bandwagon before the playoffs, mind you. In the middle of the regular season, I started paying attention to the team again. I wasn't one of those ones hopping on after they beat the Yankees. I was an early bandwagon adopter of the Jays.
Oh my gosh.
But I saw the news the other day that they signed Dylan Cease.
Yeah.
Massive new contract for him. Another arm at the top of their pitching rotation. Tell me how I should feel about this contract. Tell me how I should feel about this addition. I feel like you're the right guy to ask.
Is this Blue Jays conversation or Canucks conversation? I love it. I love it. Honestly, like the biggest thing I like about it is, okay, like Dylan Cease, you give him $210 million, 7 years, 30 million per, coming off a down year. So there's some downside in the deal. It's not a guarantee that this is going to hit in the way that we all hope and think that it would, but there's a ton of upside. He's one of the best strikeout guys in the league. So you're betting on those kinds of things, but it gives the Jays more outs. Like if you've got the money, go ahead and spend it. And they are. We saw it with the Dodgers in the World Series. Like guys go down or there's ineffectiveness through their lineup. They just, oh, well, we've got another $70 billion guy that we can bring in that's going to just crush you. And that's the way that the Dodgers have built this dynasty. They've built it on the back of their financial backing, and that they give themselves a huge margin for error. If there's injury, if there's ineffectiveness, there's another guy ready and talented enough to step into that role. And I look at that with this Blue Jays rotation where you've added Dylan Cease, and it's got a ton of upside. There is some downside to it as well, but it doesn't necessarily need to hit for the Jays to still be a playoff team next year. This isn't a put us over the top. This is lengthen our lineup, deepen our depth chart. Let's make Jose Barrios our fifth starter. And that's key when you're trying to build out a team to win consistently over 162 games and then go deep in the playoffs.
I love the Dylan Cease signing. I'm glad this was brought up. That guy just strikes out everyone. And having watched a ton of Padres games last year, Padres defense sucked, especially in the outfield. That guy couldn't get out of the fifth inning, but it wasn't really his fault. He strikes out so many batters. It's good. It's a great signing. I like it. It was a down year. That's how I look at it. It was a down year for him. He'll be back next year. He'll be great.
Quads, big Padres guy. Who would have thought? Unbelievable.
Hey, that's my NL team. I like me some Padres. Dan, you're going to cover Toronto sports, right?
Yeah.
And you've got the Blue Jays, obviously, which we just touched on. But like this Raptors team, I'm starting to hear more and more buzz about these Raptors. Like, I don't want to make it as simple as of the big three sports teams that you're going to go cover, Raptors, Blue Jays, Leafs. which one kind of like, I don't want to say which one are you most excited to cover.
Yeah.
A little more complicated than that. Like, which one of them do you think presents the most unique challenge? Which one are you excited to kind of talk about the most?
Well, I think the Leafs don't necessarily represent a challenge right now, because it's going to be a lot of the similar conversations we've had around the Canucks with where they're headed, and it doesn't look like it's going to be a great Leaf season right now. If you're asking me on November 27th, this Raptors team though kind of has similar Blue Jays vibes. They've now won 9 in a row. But it's kind of like this collective ethos that they've built as a team that's making them special. And sure, Brandon Ingram, the notorious BI3, as they're calling him now, is on fire. He had 37 the other night, and then last night he scores the buzzer beater over Pascal Siakam, former Raptor favorite as well. So there's a lot of good elements. Scotty Barnes is really finding his form as a top end player in the league too. So there's a lot of these ingredients, but what's coming together is how this group plays as a team that, in the Bill Belichick frame of mind, everybody is do your job, and everybody is doing their job to help the ceiling of the team, because everybody's got to play their role. Not everybody can chuck up the rock 25 times a night like Brandon Ingram. And I just feel like that's what is making this Raptors team so successful right now. Yeah, they've got some depth of talent, but it's everybody understanding their role and pulling on the same rope at the same time. So that is going to be what's cool about that. And I mean, the Blue Jays living up to last year's runner-up finish in the World Series. That's going to be an unbelievable season to be along for.
Did you say notorious BI3?
Yeah, that's Brandon Ingram, number 3, and they call him as BI, obviously the initials. So
that's like a great nickname.
Matt Devlin's thing, the notorious BI3, and I think whenever he gets a basket, they just play the little notorious sounder over there at
man. I wish
Toronto.
I could cover some basketball. Like, oh my gosh, if he was a hockey player, his nickname would be like Ingny or something, or Grammy. They'd call him Grammy. Anyways,
Grams.
Yeah, Gramps. Dan, thanks so much for doing this, man. We appreciate it, and we'll see you soon. Like, we're gonna follow along with your work, obviously, and all the best to you, your family. Best of luck on the move and all that going on.
Yeah, I appreciate that, fellas. 10 a.m. Eastern time, 7 a.m. Pacific. If anybody's up that early out here on the West Coast, for the debut of Off the Roster on Monday. And fellas, before I go, I want to know: are you going to cut up Filip Hronek for passing up that empty net last night in Anaheim? Because I couldn't believe he didn't take that shot last night. That was crazy.
I won, so it's fine.
I had in my notes they won, and it also wasn't the worst pass up to shoot in the NHL last night. The Couturier one that's just making the rounds right now. That was crazy. I was just like, oh my goodness.
I don't know what Couturier was thinking on that one either.
Dan, all the best. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Cheers, fellas. All the best.
There he is, Dan Riccio. Catch him, like you said, off the roster. December 1st, it launches. We'll be having, and again, this isn't the last you're going to hear from Dan in the Vancouver market either. Anytime the Canucks play the Leafs, we'll obviously be having Reach on the show. So all the best, like I said, to Riccio and his family as they head home. We've got some really good. There was some funny stuff in the chat for Dan. I like this one. This is from Brad. He said, Dan, I understand from some celebrities that sports media wants the team they cover to be bad, better for ratings. Is that true? Obviously the answer is no, as we all know, especially in the digital age. It's so the opposite. It's so the opposite of that. But anyways, we'll maybe touch on that on anyone else. We'll see. All the best to Dan Riccio. All right, Harm. Our next segment is the Canucks beating the Anaheim Ducks, and it is brought to you by our friends at Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away. You can skip the line and not pay cover on game nights if you're wearing the home team's gear. And of course, there's also the game day specials at Greta, including $3.33 off select food items, $3.33 on select drinks, and more. With the arcade, bar, and street food menu, Greta's a great spot. Make it your spot to watch the next game. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. Also, we forgot that we're playing Family Feud today. So this show is going to be even longer. Like, our topic bar is already stacked. And we also have to play Family Feud. So we're going to have to be really dialed in today, Harm. We're going to have to really focus. Here.
I'll keep you guys locked in. We're going to, I think we're aiming for probably about an hour and 20 minutes on the show today. So I'll keep you reined in.
Beautiful. Well, let us know when Dave's here, and we'll get to Dave as well. All right, Canucks beat the Anaheim Ducks. Harmon, this is an interesting one because obviously, like I said a few times, Canucks win. Everybody's all excited, but the title of today's show as a joke is Rebuild on Hold. But I think what people kind of realized, even with that game, which was a super fun game, it was a total track meet. It was pond hockey. Like, the Ducks don't defend. That was one of the worst Ducks performance of the season. And the Canucks squeaked out a victory, thanks largely in part to your boy Nikita Toapilo, who was phenomenal last night. But the thing that I'm kind of getting at is, if it, for any win to change the narrative of what the Canucks are at this point, in terms of what Jim Rutherford's dubbed them as, what we've dubbed them as a team needing to get younger, a team needing to take a step back. And again, Rutherford comes out this week and talks about trading the pending UFAs. For that to change, and this isn't to say we're not going to talk about games anymore, but for that to change, you've got to win, like, I don't know, 5 of 6 games, and you've got to do it in pretty convincing fashion. They didn't do it in convincing fashion last night, for starters, and also you have to string a lot of wins together for it to actually change any of the conversations I think we're having, the big picture conversations, that is.
For sure. I think when you look around the league, one observation you'll make is that bad teams beat good teams all the time. And first of all, the Ducks are entertaining. We still don't fully know how good they are because there are still a lot of defensive warts with them. It's not as if the Ducks are a playoff lock. But I saw some people saying, oh, this Canucks team is so confusing, hard to understand because they can lay an egg against one of the worst teams in the NHL on the second leg of a back-to-back in the Calgary Flames on Sunday, and then beat the Pacific Division leading Ducks the next day. What's going on? How do we interpret this team? Bad teams beat good teams in the NHL all the time. You have to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. And like you said, for the conversation to really change around what this team can accomplish, it's going to take more sustained success. It's going to take them needing to legitimately be in a playoff spot because their record is still that of an underwhelming bottom feeder team. But parking that conversation aside, I think we should also just appreciate a fun, entertaining game for what it is.
Yes.
Right? Let's be honest, it's been a pretty miserable year for the Canucks so far. I don't want to have a game as fun as the one we saw last night and then just immediately shift it into, well, it doesn't matter because they got to rebuild or it's not sustainable. I don't want to do that. It's
November. We can't do that.
It's just soul sucking. Like, let's appreciate good hockey when we do finally see it. I mean, obviously, I mentioned in yesterday's show that any excuse to watch the Ducks play is you'll take it because they are one of the most entertaining teams in the league because they are all out offensively, but also have no clue how to defend. And we saw that on both sides of the ledger. Defense was optional. It was pure chaos. Both teams were just giving the green light to all your forwards, all your defensemen, fly up the ice on the counterattack. Who cares? Go for that scoring chance. And then
there were two 2-on-0 breakaways in that game.
There was a grade A scoring chance every minute. It felt like
it was awesome.
That entire game was just pushing your chips into the middle of the table every single shift. And you saw the Ducks are a little bit reckless with their puck management. They don't quite understand the concept of the defensive zone yet. And the Canucks are kind of similar, right? We've talked about this before where this entire year they've had a ton of defensive woes, but we've also highlighted, and this is where, for as much as we have shared skepticism about whether Adam Foote's new playing style and system is going to translate to winning hockey, one of the positives of opening things up is that they do have the ability to counterpunch against the Ducks team and attack with some speed and skill to legitimately counter. And to me, even though the shot totals were pretty decisively in favor of Anaheim, I thought the grade A chances were about even. Both teams generated a ton of grade A's. And what I like about the Canucks performance is that it wasn't entirely on the back of Quinn Hughes putting on the superhero cape and doing it all by himself. The entire team from top to bottom was generating a ton of offensive looks. And to me, it was the most entertaining Canucks game of the season.
I'm with you. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. We got a super chat here from Colin Whitehead. We'll lead anyone else with it. It's a $5 donation, so we appreciate it. Jacob, make sure I lead anyone else with it. That's your job. Make sure I actually lead off with this question. But it's a $5 super chat. And if you want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show, then hit us with a super chat. Proceeds from our super chat go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. All right. All right. Let's get to. Yeah, I mean, we can talk more about the game if you want in anyone else. The Garland goal was the most fun thing that happened for the Canucks last night. I think first multi-point game of Tom Willander's career. Elias Pettersson ties Pavel Bure on the all-time points list for the Canucks franchise. So there's some real positives from last night.
Absolutely. First, Besser and Garland cooking together offensively as a tandem. This is what I meant about your offensive generation wasn't solely reliant on Quinn doing all the heavy lifting. Besser and Garland had some legitimate chemistry there. It's shocking that Besser wasn't able to get a goal, and I'm at least glad he was able to pick up an assist on that Garland goal, because Besser had 6 grade A chances that I counted in the first 2 periods, some of them on the power play, a bunch of them at even strength as well, where Garland set him up. And this is where I remember before the season started, I'd shared my concern about, is Besser going to be able to meaningfully contribute offensively at a high level at 5-on-5 without JT Miller? Because you look before this season and a huge chunk, the vast majority of Besser's goals were usually assisted by JT Miller, and this team didn't have a natural fit as far as another centerman for Besser to play with, especially because he and Pettersson haven't really clicked together whenever they've played as a duo the last couple of years. One possibility I hadn't considered was that maybe Garland can be the playmaker to unlock Besser and put him in positions where Garland can do some of what JT Miller did as far as controlling the puck, drawing defenders towards him, using his elusiveness down low to create space. And then Besser can then do his typical thing where he finds a soft spot, leverages his IQ to get open, and Garland has the playmaking ability to actually set him up for opportunities. That's a storyline that I'm going to keep watching, especially off of such a dominant offensive showing together as a duo. I'm really intrigued to see if they can continue to create offensively.
Besser had a lot of chances to score in that game, like a lot, especially in the first 40 minutes. So yeah, I'm with you. We're going to keep an eye on that one for sure. We've also got practice notes to get to, courtesy of Dan Murphy. So we'll get to those and anyone else. But now let's bring in our pal, Dave Hall, who's been waiting patiently. Dave Hall joins us now, and I'm all caught up on ad reads, so we can just bring Dave right in. Look at that, Dave.
Hey,
thanks for joining us. What's new in Canucks prospect land? Tell us.
Yeah, Abbotsford, it's been a tough go in Abbotsford. Braden Coots has looked really good. Alexei Medvedev's doing his thing. So there's a lot going on. Basically everything that's outside of Abbotsford though. So yeah. Story Minio has been a good story in Abbotsford, but
how's Lecker-Mackey looked in the few games that he's played for Abby?
He's looked good. He instantly, this is no surprise. He comes in and instantly, it's been a breath of fresh air for, someone like me who, watches the games and has to recap them. He just instantly comes in and he just brings that offensive punch that the team has just been lacking basically the entire season. So he comes in, he's just that dangerous offensive threat with his shot. There was a few games where, especially the first weekend when he came back, you can tell he was kind of fighting the conditioning a little bit. So I do think that, another 2 games were warranted. And right now, it's tough to tell whether it's, his conditioning still keeping him down, or if the Canucks are simply just doing Manny a little bit of a favor and, giving him at least something to work with on the offensive punch there. So
this week's Blackfish Report, Sawyer Minio got a big feature in it. Tell us what's going on with Minio right now.
Yeah, he's just honestly, as I mentioned, it hasn't been the best year down in Abbotsford for a variety of reasons. But for a kid that started out as a 20-year-old on the third pair, getting 14 minutes a night, if that, not much special teams, he's quickly had to adjust. And since then, since Tom Vilander goes up, Victor Mancini, Kirill Kudryavtsev, he's now he's averaging probably around 23, 24 minutes right now. And even with Kudryavtsev and Mancini coming back, he's still the go-to guy, PP1. He's still the PK1, and he's still on that top unit. So he's still getting those workhorse minutes, even with some of those young defensemen back in the lineup. So, there's still obviously an adjustment in his game that's going to happen. He's still going to, every once in a while, he does get outbeat by or outmuscled by, heavier opponents. But by all accounts, he's been the best story of Abbotsford without a doubt. And, now he's second in defenseman scoring among AHL rookies. So, it's just been a good story. Is he NHL ready yet? Probably not. But I just think it's, for a team that hasn't had a lot, he's been a nice bright spot.
Tom Vilander had his first multi-point NHL performance last night. He's emerged as a real silver lining for the Canucks recently. His puck play has impressed me. It's been more advanced than I thought it would be. I thought he might struggle with some of the puck skills and adjusting to the pace of NHL play. Now, on the defensive side of things, we have seen over the last couple of weeks that there have been some sketchy moments where, in terms of his net front coverage and maybe getting out muscled in certain parts of the ice, that he has been tagged for some goals against. But on the whole, he's definitely exceeded expectations. What have you seen from him so far in the NHL, and how would you grade the start to his NHL career?
Yeah, it's funny because, eye test, he actually looked fine, but his cigarette and cashew numbers last night were surprisingly quite low. But I agree with you, Harm, and I find it a little kind of funny because typically it's been the opposite. His defensive game has always been what we've kind of looked at as his strong suit, and his puck handling and kind of offensive metrics were the ones that were all, myself included. I know you, Harm, you've watched a lot of him, and those were kind of the areas that we were a little worried about his transition. So with that being said, I think it's a good sign. Maybe is he trying to do a little much in the defensive zone? I don't know. He's also being paired with Elias Pettersson. So we've got two young rookies trying to navigate their basically their first full-time stints in the NHL. And so, I think it's good. I think he's playing a much simpler game than I was pleasantly surprised to see him play. I just know that's when he tends to get himself into trouble, is when he's just trying to do too much. And so I thought I give him a nice B+. I think he's been a good player, and definitely, to the demise of me who has to watch the Abbotsford games, I think he's definitely carved out his role to stick with the team for now. I think he's been pretty good.
At the moment, it feels like he's leapfrogged DPD, and it's interesting to evaluate DPD's start to the season, because I think by the eye test, we've noticed that he's chasing the play a little bit, sometimes defensively, caught out of position. There are just a lot of details where it seems he's raw and hasn't been quite as steady as he was last year. Now, big picture, I'm not worried about DPD at all, because he's adjusting to a completely different defensive zone style and scheme. And this Adam Foote style is emphasizing defensemen to play more aggressively, to chase more in the defensive zone. It's a very tough, I think, system for young defensemen to learn and to adapt to. So I think part of it is just that adjustment process. But in the time being, we're still talking about a player that, when you look at the numbers, they're pretty ugly this year. Canucks have been outscored 15-9 with him on the ice at 5-on-5 this year. They're controlling about 40% of shots, 36% of scoring chances at 5-on-5. He has some of the worst underlying metrics of all NHL defensemen this year. And again, I'm not worried about him big picture, but I do look at how overwhelmed he's looked lately. And the question I have for you is, should the Canucks just keep trotting him out there with the hope and expectation that he'll become more comfortable as he gets more reps and more accustomed to Adam Foote's system? Or do you worry that the longer this goes on, that it could affect his confidence, and maybe at some point the team should be considering maybe sending him back to the AHL to play top pair minutes and work on developing some of the other parts of his game.
Well, I do agree that I think confidence is probably a huge, I've talked about confidence a lot, like Aramaki last year. It just goes a long way when you're a confident player or not, right? But the issue that I have with that, like, yes, I think if this was last year, I do think the easy answer would be send him down to Abbotsford, let him be the number one guy and get those reps again, and get some puck touches and let him gain that confidence back. Problem is it's not all sunshine and rainbows down in Abbotsford right now. It's not the most it's not the most friendly environment to kind of insulate a player that's looking to gain confidence. I mean, they're letting in 7 goals a game in some games on a almost common basis right now. So it's just not conducive for me to bring a guy down that you're just hoping to gain some confidence. Yes, it could work in that you'll give him some minutes and he'll get some puck touches, but for all things considered, they're just not the greatest puck touches right now. And so I think you just have to maybe weather the storm a little bit, maybe have him in the press box to to get the game at an overview glimpse, maybe get P.L. Joseph in there at some point, and just let him kind of take a bit of a reset. For me, that's kind of the only way you can go about this right now. I just think confidence is probably the biggest thing, and adjusting to the systems. At the same, he is a 20-year-old, as you already mentioned, a third round 20-year-old who kind of surprised everyone last year with his ability to just kind of shoot up, and he was probably running on a bit of juice last year as well. So right now, I think he's just kind of navigating that first full-time stint, and maybe put him up in the box a little bit to watch some games. But I just don't know if Abbotsford right now is the place to be for a guy who's already kind of broken through that threshold.
We got a question here from @Golf Made Easy for You. I'm gonna have to
that'd be
reach out to
nice.
that guy. I know, right? He asked how Mancini is.
He's been fine. He played 2 games with them. Funny enough, he didn't really stand out as much. Again, sort of Minho has kind of just taken the ride, like he's just kind of taking the reins here. But he was fine. I don't really have anything really to report. I think he didn't have a terrible game. He didn't have a great game. He was just kind of there, which I guess isn't really what you want to hear. But he didn't stand out in any bad ways, if that's I'll say that.
Anything else standing out to you, Dave?
I don't mean it's like it's just it's hard to take away a lot of positives right now. Like, it really is. Like, the game, they're getting outplayed in majority of their games, and so my view of looking good is just not standing out in any particular fashion. Like, there's a few defenders right now, I won't name names, that have just they're just tough to watch on a night-to-night basis. A lot of giveaways, just a lot of passes that are putting their partners into very unnecessary positions. And so for me right now, it's just simply a matter of not standing out in a poor way right now.
Dave, last thing from me. Oh, sorry, you got one, Harm?
Yeah, I got one. I wanted to ask you about the draft class for 2026. The Canucks are still, even after last night's win, bottom 5 in the NHL. 2-part question for you. First of all, when you look at the top of this 2026 draft class, maybe call it the top 5-6 players, how strong is it in your mind compared to previous years? And secondly, let's imagine the Canucks, hypothetically, a lot of season left to be played, but let's say they end up picking somewhere in the 4 to 8 range. Is there a player or two that stands out to you as far as being a favorite of yours that Canucks fans should keep an eye on?
From 4 to 6, I'd say Tynan Lawrence. I think he's a nice rangy, heavy set center that, he skates well. I think he's a player that he hasn't played much. He just got back from an injury, I believe. So, he's a player that I will be tracking a little more in the next couple weeks here, but he's definitely been a name since day one that I've kind of been following closely. He's now the secret's out of the bag, but I've always been a little high on Ivar Stenberg. Now it's an obvious answer now, but it's to the point where, he might go number 1 at this point. So the cat's out of the bag right there. But if they get a top 3 pick, I think Ivar Stenberg is the guy. I know McKenna is going to be hard to pass up on, but I do really like Ivar Stenberg's game. But Tynan Lawrence is definitely a name that I've definitely been looking for. If you're going a little mid draft, Wilson Bjork's brother, Vigo Bjork, is there. He's dropping hard, which I assumed he would. He's kind of like a bit of a Victor Eklund in my eyes. That I assumed. I know a lot of people had him top maybe 5 this year, but I assumed he was probably going to drop to that mid range for first rounds. So Tyler Lawrence is definitely a name that I'm looking after.
All right, Dave, last thing from me. I wrote about Kiefer Sherwood today. I wrote about NHL teams that might want Kiefer Sherwood, and I basically went through everyone's prospect pool. Steven Ellis did such a good job over the offseason right before the season started, just about breaking down the top 10 of everyone's prospect pool. Now, not all prospect pools are built the same, but I did find some interesting names, again, with the knowledge that the Canucks would like to add a young player, preferably one that can step in right away. Found a lot that fit that criteria, found some that don't, that are 18 years old but still really intriguing names. I gave you some homework. I said, look at my article, go through that list, give me a team and a player you would love to see the Canucks get back in a Kiefer Sherwood trade.
It was a pretty easy assignment for me because you actually hit one that I've been high on since Lekaramaki got drafted. I think the obvious answer in that group that you outlined would probably be Easton Cowan. I think he's just a prospect that highly in the Toronto system, but he was on second line wing last night. I don't think. At least in a Kiefer Sherwood.
He was in my unrealistic. He was in my unrealistic.
And totally. Thank you for prefacing that. Like I just don't know if that's going to be a realistic pluck. Obviously, if they can, then he's my go-to. But they also just did this with Scott Lawton last year, and I just don't know if they want to go down that road again, given where they are in the standings. But so if he's off the table, I'm going Liam Ogren. He was a guy that, if you go back to Jonathan Lekaramaki's draft season, he was a player along with Noah Ostlund that I was pretty high on, that I kind of wanted in that 15th spot. So, I love Jonathan Lekaramaki now, but he was kind of my third guy out of those three, the trio of Swedes. With Ogren, he's struggled a bit this season out the gate, at least at the NHL level. So, his value might be a little bit lower, but he's a 21-year-old, same age as Lekaramaki. He's actually played with Lekaramaki basically his entire life. So there's a lot of familiarity there. He's also played with Elias Pettersson in the Swedish international level. So there's a lot of ties to the team. He's just, he's kind of one of those players that struggle, but when he's at his best, he's a power forward that skates well. And he's a name that I would instantly be taking a value pick with Kiefer Sherwood. And then, not to give too many names, but the other one that is kind of interesting is Jack Devine out of the Florida Panthers system, a 7th round pick. So, nothing much, but since he's been drafted, he's been one of the best NCAA players. He's won a title. He's over a point per game at the NCAA level. And then even last year, when we're covering the Abbotsford Canucks playoff run, he only played 3 games against the Canucks in that final series, but he's a player that got a point in every single game and actually stood out in a positive way. And now he's almost a point per game at the AHL and has already made his debut with the Florida Panthers this year. So 7th round pick, but he's a speedy guy that can play all over the lineup. So if a Liam Ogren is a little bit too hasty of an ask, I think Jack Devine plus maybe a pick or two is a nice fetch.
Dave, thanks for doing this, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, it's always my pleasure. Thanks so much on this rainy Thursday. So
love it. There he is, Dave Hall. We appreciate his time. You can read his work over at CanucksArmy.com. Did you get to read my Sherwood article? I don't know if I told you.
I did not. No, you did not tell me to read it.
Well, okay, we're not gonna. I was about to throw it to anyone else. Well, here's what we're gonna do. All right, I'm gonna drop you the link. Jacob, drop the link to my article for people in the chat. I want everybody to read it. And if you're on podcast, CanucksArmy.com, you can find it. It's a great article. I want you to read it during the anyone else ad read, and you can also read it during my turn on Family Feud. But I think it's
how quickly do you think I read? This is a long article.
Just take a look at the names. Just take a look at the names I threw in. Like there's only 5 teams, and then I threw names that could fit. But I think it's time for Family Feud. Jacob, do you agree?
Yeah, I think now would be a good time for Family Feud.
I was setting you up to hit the music.
Well, I know, but I think you should probably do the ad read first.
I don't think we don't have one. I'm caught up.
The anyone else ad read. We should do that. And then we'll start anyone else with Feud. Then we'll get into that super chat, and then we can take it from there.
All right, that works. Anyone else is a presentation of Pacific Toyota dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid, a no-compromise approach to electric vehicles that offers the best of both worlds. You can drive up to 72 kilometers in the battery alone, then seamlessly transition from electric mode to the gas engine for a combined range of 962 kilometers. There's no sacrifices when it comes to horsepower with its sleek, low, and wide exterior and sophisticated interior. It is loaded with tech that's actually easy to use. You can plug in to recharge at home or at one of the over 2,000 public charging stations in BC alone. And now you can lease a 2025 Prius plug-in hybrid SE from $99 weekly at 3.49% APR for 64 months with $3,600 down. And it includes a $3,000 discount. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today.
All right, everyone. We found a time to fit in Family Feud. And it's another fun edition of Canucks Conversation Family Feud because the listeners have given us some really good survey results. A few weeks in a row where there's some really creative answers. And that's fun. That always makes it a lot more enjoyable when things don't necessarily go as expected. So
I don't like hearing creative responses.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. That sounds awful.
well, okay. I will say creative responses, but like I still think you guys have a chance to win. Like it's not like like I'm going into this guaranteeing an L. A couple people in the chat might disagree with me, but I think you guys have a chance. If you're new here, we play every Thursday. Harmon's going to go first. He'll have 25 seconds on the clock. His time will begin when I finish reading the first question. We are playing Fast Money Family Feud. They are racing to 200 points. And Harm, just remember, if you can't think of a response, say pass. We'll come back to it at the end if we have time. All right, Quads, time to pop those headphones out, switch over to your music, do what you got to do. And once you are disconnected, I will get the first question going here with Harm.
I think he's good now.
I think he's good. He switched over to his phone. All right, Harm, ready to go?
Yeah.
Which current Vancouver Canucks winger would have been the best fit on a line with the Sedin twins?
Brock Besser.
Name a Canadian player who is not at the Four Nations that should be on the Olympic team.
Macklin Celebrini.
Besides Rogers Arena, name a location in Vancouver you could spot a Canucks player.
Seawall.
Name a Canuck past or present that you would hire as a personal bodyguard.
Genogic.
Which other Nation Network site would you want to play against in Family Feud? I'll let you answer.
Oilers Nation.
Oilers Nation. Perfect. All right. Good work. Oh, Quads isn't looking up, so he's not going to see you. That's the problem when he disconnects. He has to at least look up at some point. I'm tallying up your score.
I really hope there's a second for the first answer. There's a second player that I immediately after answering the guy I gave, I was like, this guy would have probably gotten more points. So I hope Quads can get that guy.
How'd it go?
Well, I think competitive. Not
Sweet.
saying I carried, but
Sweet.
Actually, Harm, you did carry. You got to 138 points.
all right, solid.
Quads, that means you only need to get to 62. And there are still some big answers on the board. So you're going to have 30 seconds on the clock. Yeah, the questions are really long this week. In fact, I might even read them in a slightly different order. I might swap 1 and 2 just to give some extra time. So if you're listening, that's why it's going to be out of order, just to manage that. I did have to give Harmon some extra time because I was still reading that last question. But yes, 62 points. That's what you need. Ready to go, Quads?
Yes, sir.
Oh, and I should probably mention, if you give one of Harmon's answers, you'll hear the buzzer and I will ask you to try again. All right, here we go. Name a Canadian player who was not at the Four Nations face-off, but should make the Olympic team.
Celebrini.
Try again.
Bedard.
Which current Canucks winger would have been the best fit on the line with the Sedins?
Garland.
Besides Rogers Arena, name a location in Vancouver you could spot a Canucks player.
Seawall.
Try again.
Banter room.
Name a Canuck past or present you would hire as your personal bodyguard.
Genogic.
Try again.
Rick Rippon.
Which other Nation Network site would you want to play against in Family Feud?
Oilers Nation.
Try again.
Leafs Nation.
All right, you got it in just before the buzzer.
We missed Sherwood on that first. Who would have?
You
Because people are gonna.
absolutely
Because I
missed
said
Sherwood.
I was really hoping you were gonna say Sherwood.
On
Because I missed it. I said
Yeah.
Besser. Because Sherwood's people are gonna think of him as like a Burrows clone.
Yep. Harmon absolutely nailed it. Kiefer Sherwood's the number one answer.
Player.
But
As soon as I said Besser, I was like, I got that one wrong.
I will say Besser and Garland were the number 3 and number 2 answers respectively. You guys combined for 43 points on that question.
Nice.
Kiefer Sherwood, number 1 answer, 32. So a few extra points there, but
Fun fact: Besser skated on a line with Daniel and Henrik in his first NHL game.
That's why I picked him.
and a few people did mention that when they filled out the survey as well. Well, Besser actually did play with the Sedins, so yeah, fair enough. A Canadian player who is not at the Four Nations but should be on the Olympic team. Yeah, you guys got the number 1 and number 2. Oh, sorry, hit the wrong key. There we go. You guys got the number 1 and the number 2. 40 for Celebrini, 20 for Bedard. Nick Suzuki was number 3, but I am going to say, hot take here, and I'm the biggest Nick Suzuki fan you're going to find. The actual number 1 answer, in my opinion, is Logan Thompson, who came in at number 4. As great as Celebrini and Bedard are, like they have guys that can score. They have centers. Logan Thompson needs to be on that Olympic team, and I think it's pretty obvious to fans who have watched this year. So to the 11 people that said Logan Thompson, good on you. I think that is the true number 1 answer, in my opinion. Besides Rogers Arena, name a location you could spot a Canucks player. Both of you guys did actually say Stanley Park seawall. 15 points there for Harm. Quads, I had to group a few of the bars together. We got a few banter rooms. We got a few Roxy's.
Roxy's incorrect. You won't see a Canucks with the Roxy.
I know. So, but a few people did actually say banter room specifically. I grouped them together.
Which is
bars. Tied for number 2, 15 points for both of those. Number 1 answer, and this is a good one, was at UBC.
Yeah, true.
Great answer to everyone who said that. Totally correct. Other ones that were up there were fancy restaurants. We saw Elisa Steakhouse named as one of them. A few of the sushi places. Gross Mountain.
Parlor Pizza. Oh my gosh. You hang on
Parlor Pizza. Parlor Pizza was listed on there.
Also correct.
Yeah.
I would have broadly just said Yaletown.
Yeah, Yaletown. Yes. Just anywhere in Yaletown. Not anywhere outside of Yaletown.
Yes. A few people said Yaletown specifically. I grouped that in for like
yeah.
It was tough to find a grouping, but it made sense. I could tell what people meant by that. Starbucks was on the list as well, and other Vancouver sporting events were on the list. So we saw Golden Eyes, Whitecaps, BC Lions, amongst others. So good work there. You guys are at 196 points with 2 questions to go.
Nice.
Let's go.
Name a Canuck past or present that you would like to, or that you would hire as your bodyguard. So Gino Ojic was the number 2 answer, worth 17 points. Rick Rippon only got 3 points, which means you guys are at 199.
Okay.
Was Brashear 1?
Brashear was 3. Nikita Zadorov was number 1.
Oh, yeah.
Good answer.
Fair enough.
Good
That was
answer.
a good answer.
Not better than Gino. Not better than Gino.
No, but
a good answer.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. The big Russian, intimidating, absolutely. Kevin Bieksa got some votes as well. I think Bieksa, you need a bodyguard though who like you're not gonna want to make jokes and hang out with. You need someone who's kind of locked in, which is why I think Gino Ojic would have been a great bodyguard.
Well,
all right,
making jokes with Gino, unfortunately.
Well,
he wouldn't fit that billing.
I mean, neither would Zadorov.
No,
Zadorov would be, but I think that's part of what would make him more intimidating.
Yeah,
is
hot
he
take.
Just chirps everybody.
Yeah.
I want a
that
Zadorov
bodyguard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you guys need 1 point. You're gonna get the 1 point. I can already tell you. You guys have one. Oilers Nation was the number 1 answer. Quads, you went to Leafs Nation. That was the number 3 answer. 16 points there. Daily Faceoff was the number 2. I mean, who at Daily Faceoff would?
Larkin. It would be like
Larkin would be good.
Fox Hagan, Steven Ellis. They'd have a good team.
I mean, Tyler obviously could play for either DFO or Oilers Nation. Irf, Dave Peñota, obviously now both have a show on DFO. So there's some good names.
Is that record right?
I believe so. You guys were 6-4 after last week.
Were we
you
6-4? I thought we won last week to snap a 3-game.
We might have to double check.
Tapes. Someone go check the tapes.
I'll check the tapes. The chat
Yeah.
will also certainly.
I feel like we're
answer the
better
question.
than 3 games above 500 after that win.
Yeah, I'll check the chat. They'll remind me if I'm wrong, and we'll make sure it's fixed. But you might actually be 7-3.
Yeah, that's
but
what
we'll
I
see.
thought it might be.
Okay, well,
There you
we'll
go.
soon find out. Jacob, great job as always. That was fun.
Thanks, guys.
Harm, speaking of numbers, like
Let's do it.
7-3, like 7-4. Any numbers on your mind right now?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you with the stat of the day, which is a presentation of Uber Eats. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app. From game day eats to paper plates and napkins, if you're hosting, to all the ingredients you need to make your favorite game day dip. Before, during, and after the game, Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. Hashtag crave the stats.
Karn, I need to tell you this. Karn jumped in the chat and said, Harm's stat of the day is the corrected Family Feud record.
Also, I do have to jump in one more thing. Karen, if you watch actual Family Feud, both of those things happen. They let them answer after the buzzer if Steve Harvey is taking too long to read, and they group answers together because otherwise on some questions you'd have like 42 two answer or response answers. Like,
I love that you fired up your mic to defend the.
I'm just saying it's easy.
The integrity of the game.
It's easier than typing it out, but like there's really no difference between two different bars for a question like where would you find a Canucks? So I'm going to group it together into bar or restaurant because otherwise there's no chance these guys would have come close.
Yeah, a lot of these people don't
Just
watch
saying
Family Feud because that you're right. That those are both things that happen on the actual show. Anyways, Harm, we've hijacked your segment. Stat of the day. Go ahead.
Yeah, so our pal Dan Murphy noted that at Canucks skate, Max Sasson has taken Aturatu's spot between O'Connor and Sherwood. Lucas Reichel bumping up to center the fourth line, and it appears Aturatu is the odd man out and could be a healthy scratch tomorrow against the San Jose Sharks. I wanted to have a broader discussion about this. Now, last 5 games, it is interesting to note Aturatu has struggled a little bit where you look at those numbers, they've been outshot 21-11 at 5-on-5. High danger chances are 14-6 for the opposition, and they're down 3-0 goals wise. Now, Aturatu's underlying numbers for the season as a whole are still really strong, but the last 5 games, they have slipped up a little bit. And when you look at last night's performance against the Ducks, he did have a pretty bad defensive breakdown on Leo Carlson's rebound goal, where Tom Verlander and Chris Kreider were engaged in a net front battle. Ratu inexplicably doubled towards Kreider, gave him a little cross check to presumably give Verlander some support, but then that left Carlson wide open in the slot. In my mind, that's a really bad defensive error. There was no need to double up there. It's part of what Ray Ferraro even referenced on the broadcast, generally speaking, of Canucks players just got to do their job defensively. And it's even something Adam Foote mentioned where sometimes a player thinks his teammate is in trouble when the teammate actually isn't in trouble. And that teammate and that player providing that help puts himself in trouble and leaves his check wide open. And even during the Calgary game, there was another goal against where Ratu's net front coverage wasn't very good at all. It was primarily his fault. I understand that, and I think it's important to reference that context of, okay, Aturatu genuinely hasn't been playing well the last few games before I mention what I'm about to mention, which is, even with all that in mind, the question I have is, how is Lucas Reichel at center any better than Aturatu?
I agree.
And that's where I stand, where I would disagree with the idea of Aturatu being a scratch. And if he is a scratch, I would hope he's reinserted on Saturday, the second leg of that back-to-back. And I hope this is just a reset. Watch one game from the press box because you've been maybe out of your depth a little bit defensively lately. But broadly speaking, inserting Reichel into the lineup and bumping Sasson up the lineup, taking Ratu out, I don't think that actually improves your chances of winning.
Yeah, and I think that's the other side of it all is, and someone in the chat literally said in a mocking tone with their text, they said, "We want to get younger," scratches the 23-year-old. I think it's kind of like it goes back to what we talk about alignment and organizational philosophy, right? Is like, if it were someone other than Lucas Reichel, I think it's maybe a bit of a different conversation, but like Lucas Reichel isn't going to be a Canuck long term. There's still a chance that Achi Ratu is a Canuck long term, right? And I think you want to try to give, and again, a scratch isn't the end of the world. It's not like they're saying this guy's out of the lineup indefinitely. So I don't want to make it something bigger than what it is, but it's just that if it's Reichel coming in, it's like kind of okay. What's really the point here? Again, like you said, sometimes when you watch from the press box, you can get a good reset, but it just comes back down to that conversation we had about, like, are you trying to win games or are you trying to let the young guys learn? Like, where are you at as a team? So it's an interesting thing about the Canucks identity right now. You're right, Ratu hasn't played great as of late, but not sure how much he's going to learn from the press box watching Lucas Reichel in the defensive zone.
Yeah, I'm not going to freak out if it's just one scratch by any means. Coaches around the NHL do this once in a while when they feel that a young player maybe needs a reset. And if that's all it is, fine. I'm not even going to criticize it or say that Adam Foote is necessarily wrong, because again, I referenced the numbers of the last 5 games, and even outside of the numbers, I pointed out the specific examples with the eye test of, all right, he is making some glaring defensive errors here, but you just hope that this isn't a trend moving forward where Ratu is in and out of the lineup and having to compete really hard for a spot in this lineup, because in my mind, he's a clear cut above a lot of these other fringe forwards in terms of the long-term outlook of what he could be. And if you zoom out from these last few games, we've mentioned this before, I actually think Achi Ratu has been one of their better bottom 6 forwards.
Do you want to get to some listener questions now?
Let's do it.
Start with this one. It was a super chat from Colin from earlier. He said, should the Canucks try to package up something for Tage Thompson or trade Hughes for McTavish plus? Because I did the Sherwood article today, which I want to talk about later, I've been looking a lot at different teams' prospect pools. I just want to say, I think it would be so fun to be a GM. Like, just throwing out a call out there that, hey, this guy's available. Give us your best offers. And I love doing this in fantasy baseball, fantasy football, fantasy hockey even. And just getting calls, because I was going through teams' prospect pipelines, and there's just so many intriguing names that I realistically think you could get in a Kiefer Sherwood trade. And obviously with Hughes, that's a new tier, right? You're looking at the best prospects that teams have to offer, not really their kind of like B+ prospects, their B level prospects. You're looking at those top level prospects. I think that's a ton of fun. So I would say, yeah, I mean, if the Canucks decide that they're going to trade Quinn Hughes, right, and they're only going to do that if they know he's not re-signing, which we don't know yet. I like to stress that to people. Yeah, of course they should try to get someone like Mason McTavish plus, right? Of course, like, it'd be great if they could go out and get, again, like, you don't want to see them get like a C-level win now piece, right? Just like, oh, this is a warm body that can go in our lineup. It'd be like, no, let's go get a top of the lineup guy, also adding a first round pick, also adding a top prospect. Like, crush the Quinn Hughes return. The best way to do that is by having at least one young piece in there that's going to be a real impact for your lineup right away.
Yeah, and is a known commodity, is a certainty. You don't want to trade if you get to the point where Quinn doesn't want to resign and you're forced into moving him. You don't want to trade him for 4 first-round picks, because if you're trading him to a contender that's added Quinn Hughes, they're presumably going to finish high in the standings. Though those first-round picks are going to be 20 and onward. Late first-round picks, it sounds really sexy to say, oh, we got X amount of first-round picks, but picks after, like, in the mid-20s and onward, just don't hit and aren't nearly as valuable as first-round picks that are in the top 10 to 15 range. And your chances of actually landing a true difference maker, somebody that can pan out as a top 6 forward or top 4 defenseman, it really falls off a cliff once you get to the later parts of the first round. And that's why if you are in a spot where you're forced to move Quinn, you want the centerpiece to be a young player that is going to be part of your core for a long time. And McTavish is an example of that. I'm not saying he'd necessarily be the best one, but it's why if you were to move him to the Devils, Simon Nemec has been breaking out this year. He's a bit more of a known commodity as well. And you'd want a package to include, that type of piece. And then hopefully another A-level prospect. And then, that would be your starting point. If you're the Canucks, you don't just want something that's futures oriented and it to be based around pieces that you're not certain that you think will pan out as core pieces, but that you're not certain on, because that's how you could end up doing the Mark Stone thing where the centerpiece was Eric Brandstrom and Brandstrom didn't pan out, and then you're left with essentially nothing.
Yep. I was just going to point out the Mark Stone trade. Yeah, they really were left with nothing. Like, they don't have anything from that trade at this point, right?
Yeah,
Oscar
I don't think
Lindbergh's been out of the league since 2018-19. Played one season with the Senators. Brandstrom's obviously out of the league, but he might come back. Probably not to Ottawa. Yeah, there's nothing from that trade.
Also,
that's crazy work.
The Tage Thompson part of that question, you're not winning a Tage Thompson bidding war. It's the same thing we said when JJ Peterka was available, where other teams are going to have better assets, right? What would the Montreal Canadiens give up if Tage Thompson was available? I mean, half the league is looking for top 6 centers. We know that the Canucks don't have the cream of the crop when it comes to weaponry, and especially they can't afford to be giving up first round picks at this juncture. So as much as you of course kick tires, you of course see if you can land him. At the end of the day, if Thompson actually ends up becoming available, I really doubt that you're going to win that bidding war.
Also, he's 28. Like, I'm not trying to do he's too old, but like, figure out a window and stick with it. If Braden Coots is 18 years old and all these, and Medvedev, first ballot Hall of Famer, if he's 17, like, try to get guys in that range. Like, McTavish is what, 23 years old now? Is
22.
22. Like, that's
early
what I mean.
20s fits. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, I'm not trying to say, Tage washed. I'm just trying to say, like, pick a window and stick with it. It's why, like, I dropped the Sherwood article and there was even a few people like, just extend them. It's like, for what? Like, for what? What is that going to do for you? So, anyways, I don't want to continue down that road. But I did want to bring up this Sherwood article that I wrote, and I was looking at teams' prospect pools, and man, there are some really intriguing, like, B-level prospects just around the league. One team that actually kind of caught my attention was the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, I included Easton Cowan as like a pie in the sky. Like, okay, you also take on Max Domi's money.
No, there's no way it's happening.
You're probably throwing in a draft pick, and then at that point, you're just like, okay, this probably isn't worth it. But
they like Easton. Just to clarify, they like Easton Cowan about as much as Canucks fans like Braden Coots. Just for reference.
He tied up the game last night against the Blue Jackets. Like, he's playing in big moments too. They're not trading Easton Cowan. Again, also comes to the context that they traded Fraser Minton, right? They're not trading more futures when they're that low in the standings. Not like blue chip ones, but the tier below that I found really interesting. There's some really intriguing names, some guys that are like 18 years old. Even like this Tynus Luke Koblar. I know nothing about him, as you can tell. But I'm very intrigued by him. He's kind of like I think if you're picking one from the Leafs, it's him. 18-year-old right winger, currently playing in the Allsvenskan. Or no, excuse me, he's in the Swedish Junior League. And he's spent some time in the SHL as well. He's only put up 5 points in 20 games in the SHL, but he's 18. So he's an intriguing one, 64th overall in the most recent draft. He was their first pick in the second round. So just a few intriguing names when you go up and down the list. Another one, Detroit's got some really intriguing prospects, and they have a lot of them, so much so that when you look at how crowded the Eastern Conference is, and again, don't forget Detroit started kind of near the top, and now they're in the logjam with everyone else. Like, I looked at teams like Detroit as being one that might say, okay, you know what? We have a lot of prospects. We haven't made the playoffs since 2016. It's time for us to get over the hump. We need to make a move to improve this team right now and give us a bit of an edge on the rest of this group, the pack in the Eastern Conference that are all jockeying for playoff position at this juncture. Let's go get Kiefer Sherwood. And would they part with one of those kind of B+ level prospects? Detroit's a really intriguing option for me.
I think Detroit's a much better and more realistic fit than Toronto. The Leafs have really loaded up on a lot of the hard to play against gritty bottom six forwards. They of course traded for Dakota Joshua. That hasn't been panning out. But even just stylistically, that bottom six has a lot of guys that are kind of hard to play against. And of course, Kiefer Sherwood would obviously be an upgrade because offensively he brings more of a punch than anybody else they have down there. But they have Nick Waugh there. They have Bobby McMahon. Scott Lawton, they obviously paid a premium for. All of these are players that are supposed to be heavier, harder to play against. I don't think more of that element necessarily, and especially with where they are at in the standings and how many future assets they've already surrendered. I don't know if Brad Treliving is going to have the green light to go out and bid for a player like Kiefer Sherwood, especially because when I watch the Leafs, their biggest issue has been similar to the Canucks in the first half of last year, where they can't break the puck out of their own zone. Now, they've had injuries as well. Now he's just returned to the lineup. Matthews has been out. Tanev has been out. So injuries are part of why they haven't had success. But their blue line doesn't have enough puck movers. And if you're looking to, they're leaning on Simone Benoit right now in a top four role. The point being, if the Leafs are going to do anything to try and salvage this season, I think if anything, they would be more likely to target a puck-moving defenseman. But Detroit, I could see. Detroit, I am intrigued by because their top four players this year, Dylan Larkin, Lucas Raymond, Alex DeBrincat, Moritz Seider, have been unreal. Those four collective, when you look at the numbers as far as which teams have gotten the best performance out of the top of their lineup, Detroit is near the top of the league. Those guys have been unreal. What the Red Wings haven't had enough of, though, is enough secondary scoring. They haven't had enough depth. That's where Kiefer Sherwood would help bolster your middle six, give you more 5-on-5 offense, and he would give you some of that physical edge, the forechecking, the nastiness, the hard to play against element that I think the Red Wings could actually benefit from, and that I would suspect Steve Yzerman values, covets, and especially with the Red Wings having money coming off the books, right? Because this is where it's worth pointing out. You look at the Wings books, Ben Sherratt has his contract expiring this year, so that's nearly $5 million that ends up being freed up. Our cap hit, his contract expires. They've got nearly $3 million additional dollars of dead cap hit expiring as well from performance bonus carryovers, Justin Abdelkader's buyout hit. I think they also have Eric Gustafsson, whose contract expires. Yeah, he's $2 million. So the point being, the Red Wings have a lot of cap space for next season, so they could target Sherwood as not just a rental to aid them in this playoff push, but perhaps view him as, let's acquire him and extend him the way that the Canucks did with LaMarcus Pettersson, for example. So yeah, I like Detroit as a team to keep an eye on.
I have Minnesota in there too. Liam Ogren skating on the fourth line right now, 21 years old. Played 11 games with 0 points so far. He'd be an immediate upgrade for Minnesota. Again, maybe just too high of a ceiling still for Minnesota to part with him. Again, maybe a draft pick make it work. But yeah, it'd be one that I think would be tough to pull off.
The Wild also, similar to what Brad Treliving does, where and the Leafs have done, where yeah, I'm sure Bill Guerin loves Kiefer Sherwood style players, and we saw him at last year's deadline acquire Justin Brazeau, although that was a really cheap price. They barely had to give anything up for him.
Yeah.
But they already have a lot of physical, hard to play against forwards, right? They've got Marcus Foligno. They paid a premium for Yakov Trenin. Ryan Hartman is a rat as well. So do they need another one of those guys? I don't know. Maybe Bill Guerin is just that in love with that style of player that he'd be willing to pay for Kiefer Sherwood. But I wonder if there's some redundancy for the Wild there. So I wouldn't be holding my breath about being able to get Liam Ogren in a Kiefer Sherwood trade.
Got a super chat from Colin in the chat. He said, how about Columbus for a trade partner? Assuming he means for Kiefer Sherwood. I didn't dive into Columbus's prospect pool. What do you think about the Columbus?
Sorry, before Harmon goes, I will point out Don Waddell was on with Earth and Dave Pagnotti yesterday on DFO Insider, Columbus Blue Jackets president and GM. And he did say he was looking to add to his team, but because of how tightly packed the standings are, there's just very few sellers available right now. So Columbus could be an interesting one if you are the first team willing to offer up a player and one that they might be interested in. So
if memory serves me, the Blue Jackets forward group is pretty, I mean, maybe they're a little bit more banged up than when I last saw them, but last time I saw them, their forward group seems pretty stacked. If anything, it's been tough. They've had a logjam of wingers for a while, where I remember not even a couple weeks ago, a week ago, watching the Oilers Blue Jackets game, and they had a stacked third line with Coyle, Matthew Olivier, and Cole Sillinger, who's turned into a disruptive, penalty-killing, high-speed, high-energy defensive disruptor that they used to match up against the Connor McDavid line. And that line won its minutes against the McDavid trio and was part of the reason Blue Jackets won that game. So again, I'd have to do a little bit more digging on Columbus. I don't know if they stand out to me. I will point out another team that my colleague over at The Athletic, Arpin Basu, who covers the Montreal Canadiens, like he wrote about Kiefer Sherwood as a potential target for Montreal. And it was a bit of an open-ended debate about, and Jacob, you can chime in as well, but it being a debate about, are they in their window yet where they can afford to pay for a rental, although maybe they also have the cap space to be able to extend him and make it a long-term fit anyway. But it was interesting to me that Basu wrote a whole article around Canucks are selling, Sherwood could be the style of player that the Canadians are interested in, and then the debate of, would it be worth it to give up a second-round pick for Kiefer Sherwood?
See, that's the tough thing, because I think they can afford to give up a second-round pick. They have so many young players in the system. They just absolutely accumulated every pick they could imagine during their few years rebuilding. But I still don't think they're actually in their window yet. And I've said this to a few people, but when Montreal gets brought up, it's usually, well, do they have the goaltending to actually like win a Stanley Cup? Sam Montembeault will, and for that matter, Dobesh, I don't think either of those guys will be the starting goalie on the Montreal Canadiens when they're actually cup contenders. They have Jacob Fowler in the AHL. He's a 20-year-old former second-round pick, put up unbelievable NCAA numbers last year, and he's putting up unbelievable AHL numbers this year. he's probably the guy. And Quads has talked about, if the Canucks rebuild, you do it along the timeline of Coots and of Medvedev, right? You have that goalie coming up. When you draft a goalie in the first 50 picks of the draft that you are confident is going to be a star at the NHL level, and you have a center that can go along with that, or you have a defenseman that can go along with that, you build your whole timeline to fit with those guys coming up. And I think Montreal's timeline probably is still 1 or 2 years away, and renting Kiefer Sherwood maybe helps you win the first round of the playoffs, but realistically, they're probably not in the market for a rental until next year, and they're probably not an actual contender until 2 or 3 years from now.
Yeah, very fair.
All right, anything else from either of you? The Couturier drop pass, or excuse me, it was a drop pass to Couturier, and then he fired it back into the corner rather than shooting.
Yeah.
Elias Pettersson sees that and goes, "Whoa, man, you got to shoot that puck."
It was wild. I can only imagine. I would love to have seen Rick Tockett's live reaction to that play unfolding.
ISO cam on Rick Tocchet
Yeah.
there. Yeah, that was a tough one. If you haven't seen it, just probably open social media and I think you'll find it. Or if you search Sean Couturier, you will find it. Okay, anything else from either of you before we get to our Bet365 bet of the day?
No, I think I'm good. You got to close it out with another NBA bet, though.
Yeah. Oh,
You
actually,
want an NBA bet?
I do have one more thing. I went back and checked the correct Family Feud record. You guys are 8-3. So there you go.
Wow.
Oh, there we go.
I can't
Yeah,
believe
I had
Harden
it wrong.
Liked that. I have no. Jacob could have flashed like 3 and 8, and I'd just be like, "All right, third win of the year." I have no.
I thought there's
everything.
no way we were only 2 games above 500 before the win today because of how hot we started. We were 5-0 to begin, weren't we?
Yes, you were, and then you lost 3 in a row, but now you've won 3 in a row. So there you go. That would add up to 8-3.
We're not rebuilding yet, folks. All right, basketball. You want a basketball bet?
Yes, please.
Are there basketball games on tonight though? No, but there
No,
are
there's
Friday
not.
games.
Yeah.
Look at
We're
the
not doing
Friday
a show
slate.
Friday. I'll do the Friday slate. We should also say no show tomorrow. Canucks in San Jose. For pregame stuff, go to CanucksArmy.com. And the Athletic. You guys got stuff too, obviously. So yeah, we'll have stuff on the weekend, but not on the show. We're not doing a show with a 1 p.m. start. We'll be back on Monday to break down 2 Canucks games, San Jose, and then of course LA as well. I feel like we didn't really talk enough about Nikita Toapilo, Harm. You were clamoring for this guy to get a start, obviously. And he was really, really good last night in all seriousness. I really like, again, he fits that same mold of like Archer Shilov's where he seals off the bottom of the net super well. He's got those long arms, like he's got the really long limbs. And you know where you really notice it is like when guys try to beat him blocker side. And he's just so tall. Like when he drops down, his shoulders go up to the crossbar, and his blocker's just like so active and so ready to go. He made like a few blocker saves last night that were just like, those are difficult to get to, but because he's got such long arms, he's just flinging them away, setting him into the corner. I thought it was a really good game for Nikita Toapilo.
Yeah, he had to save a bunch of different type of scoring chances too, right? It wasn't just opportunities off the rush, which there were plenty of for both teams. There were plenty of chances where the Ducks got set up in their half-court offense, in zone, off the cycle, and they were really consistently able to find opportunities in the high slot area. And Ray Ferraro did an unbelievable job. One of the best color commentators in the entire league, by the way, as we all know, of pointing out situations where the Canucks, instead of staying compact in the middle, would chase out to the boards or down low or up high. They would spread out too much, which would sort of leave the high slot area open. And Toapilo stopped a bunch of really high quality scoring chances from those areas. He faced multiple breakaways. I love the Vetrano save on during the third period breakaway. He was excellent for them. Could not have played better in my opinion.
He'll get the start. I hope he'll get the Saturday start. He's going to be Patera tomorrow, I would assume, against the Sharks. But yeah, I think Toapilo might make the goaltending conversation interesting. That's all I'll say. Let's see how he does. Let's see him for more than one start. But yeah, really, really solid season debut for Nikita Toapilo. All right. We didn't really get to the stuff from Canucks practice. We kind of talked about it, like Reichel, Raty, and stuff. I don't think there was anything else. Let me make sure. I just want to see.
Don't think so. I didn't see Murph tweeting anything else.
Yeah, I think that was it. Okay, so just the juggling at center. We wrote about it at CA. Jeff did. All right, basketball bet. I don't like this. Should I do a football bet? I don't like any of the NBA slate. All these games are going to be, I don't know. Basketball.
Are they all really lopsided?
Yeah, like there's one close game, but I have no feel. Like I don't know.
What are the two teams?
The Bulls and the Charlotte Hornets are kind of close.
Okay,
Bulls
that's
are -135
I don't
favorites.
really.
Does Rondo still play for the Bulls?
Stop it! Now you're.
That was
you're
a joke.
trolling.
I know.
You're trolling.
Football's
I
tough
don't know.
too, though, Quads, because
No, it's not. Football, I'll give you something that's gonna hit right now.
Do it.
Let's see.
Dude,
it.
I know ball. I know ball. Trust me.
All the
All right,
balls.
let's see. Who's playing?
So Kansas City Dallas is at halftime, and the late game is Cincinnati with Joe Burrow returning on the road in Baltimore.
Well, Baltimore's sucked all year. Give me a
Well,
parlay
but-
that has
but-
Derrick Henry fumbles because he loves to do that, and then Joe Burrow.
Baltimore is
200+ passing yards.
6-5, and 4 of the 5 losses came when Lamar Jackson was hurt, I believe. So
Is he still hurt?
no, he's playing.
All right. Am I allowed to build parlays?
Yeah, if you'd
All right,
like.
hang on a sec. Give me a second.
Oh no!
Parm, stall.
Oh no! This is. It's so funny hearing Quads say, "Oh, the Baltimore's been horrible this year," and then my first thought was, "Doesn't Lamar Jackson still?" I don't follow the NFL.
He's
at
been
all.
hurt most of the year, which is.
But then the context too of 4 of the 5 losses were when he was hurt.
Oh,
and now
okay, you
he's
know what, though?
back, so
I will say, so he was a full participant in practice this week, but I guess he is playing, but he was on the injury list and then was considered a full participant in practice. But it is expected that both he and Joe Burrow are going to play. So there you go.
did you cook Quads?
No, I'm still working on it. Hang on.
There is an NFL game tomorrow morning though that might be a little easier to
No, I don't
use.
need easy. I don't need easy. I'm trying to find how do I pick fumbles. I want to bet on a guy fumbling. Can I do that?
I don't know
swear
if that prop is available. I'm sure it is somewhere, but
Hang on, just give me a
do
second.
you actually want to bet on
really
Derrick Henry
wants this.
fumbling
He
against the
wants
Bengals defense, which is one of the worst defenses in the league that
He wants
doesn't
to
force
let him do
turnovers?
it.
Okay, I can't find Derrick Henry fumbles.
Special
so
request. Time to send in the special request.
Special request, Derrick Henry.
We're gonna
fumble.
go Derrick Henry anytime touchdown instead.
Which actually is a good bet against a bad
Yeah.
run defense. Just
All right,
saying.
so we've got this is the parlay. Ready? Bengals money line. All right, Joe Burrow plus 225 passing yards, and then Derrick Henry to score a touchdown at plus 700 odds.
Quads, I love that. That's a really fun football parlay to wrap
you.
up U.S. Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
We should check back on that on Monday.
Yeah. What did I say yesterday? What was my bet yesterday? I've been cooking lately.
I don't know. The problem is you list like 8 different NBA matchups, and I don't know which one you
I don't
actually
think you
picked.
bet NBA yesterday, did you?
No, I didn't. I went NHL.
Was it?
Oh no! I went Golden Ice. I picked the Golden Ice.
Oh yeah,
No, I
and you
didn't.
lost.
Oh no! You guys said I wasn't allowed to pick.
You
Golden
weren't
Ice.
allowed to,
Yeah,
and they
yeah, no.
lost.
What did I pick?
Was
Did you
it
pick? Was it a Mammoth related bet?
Mammoth in Vegas? Was it in that game?
No, the Mavs played the Habs yesterday. I don't know.
Right,
Who,
No,
sorry,
I don't
I
think
have
you bet on
no
that.
clue what I picked. Oh, they lost. I picked the Kraken. Remember? To beat the
Oh
Stars.
yeah, you're fraudulent Kraken.
Yeah. Whatever. It was a close
Frauds.
game. We narrowly lost that game.
You can't even say
3-2.
narrowly lost because
It's 3-2.
almost every game is a 1-goal game in the NHL these days.
Whatever. Tyson
Who
Cole in the
did they
chat
lose to?
says, "Don't think you can bet on fumbles." I'd love to. That'd be so fun. Yeah. Anyways, do you remember at the peak of my Pierre-Luc Dubois hating when I was like taking his under on shots on goal every game and it was hitting?
I don't remember that actually.
Yeah. Yep. That was the thing I did.
Don't get me wrong. I
under.
remember the PLD hate, but I don't
Yeah.
remember the betting on his unders for the shot totals.
I did. Yeah. It was under on his shot totals every game. Good times. All right. Yeah, we read long. We knew we'd run long. So thanks for sticking with us, folks. It was a long show today. Hopefully a good way to send you into a fun-filled Friday and a nice weekend where we'll talk more Well, the Vancouver Canucks will have lots to talk about on Monday, but for now, we will close it out there for my co-host Harmon Dial and our technical producer Jacob. Wait a sec. I forgot to tell you that was our Bet365 bet of the day. I get so excited. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get on the game. Use the code NATION at Bet365. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. All right, we'll wrap it up there for my co-host Harmon Dial and technical producer Jacob Lazar. My name is Dave Virgili. Thanks so much to the episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.